Beautiful stuff. We're live. Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. Takeaway 2. We did a part 1 and I wasn't live. So yeah. Guys, we're here talking to you guys about Married at First Sight, season 11, episode 12. And that was the episode that was last week. So just to let you know, episode 13 drops in America tonight. We'll receive that in UK probably by tomorrow. So yes, today I'm with 2 established guests who are going to talk some real wisdom, some real stuff about Married at First Sight and about relations and about marriage. Also, guys, if you missed yesterday's conversation, you missed out. Okay, but don't worry, it's there, saved. You can go and access it, and we'll go again next Tuesday, and again we'll go back next week, Wednesday as well, to discuss more Married at First Sight. So, with my 2 lovely guests, I'm gonna let Sophie start and let her introduce herself. You might recognize her from last week. So, Sophie, please introduce yourself, where you're from, what you're about, and yeah, all that good stuff.
All right, great. Thank you so much for having me again on the show, Kojo. I had so much fun last week. As my handle says, I am Sophie Hannah. So that's the name for my Instagram, for my YouTube. So please go and follow me and see what I'm doing. I'm currently creating content really to do with having a voice in the ethnic community, having a voice that talks about Black British issues. And I really like to focus on women specifically, so ethnic minority women. So I'm currently on a show called Ethnically Speaking on YouTube that comes out once a week. And we talk about pop culture and current affairs. So yeah, follow me on I am Sophie Hannah and you'll see everything I'm doing.
Beautiful stuff. My personal favorite. This is Marriage UK. That's my handle for you. But there's 2 of you in it, so you know you got to introduce yourself personally. You know, we know one half, but you got to get us who you are as well. Go for it, sis.
Yes, this is the other half of This Is Marriage UK. My name is Juanita, and we run the This Is Marriage UK IG page, and we also have a YouTube page. We just have real talk about relationships and marriage. And we've been doing that for, I would say, over 7 years, but we've had 19 years marriage experience. So we just want to share it with the world so that you can stay the course.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. So today's conversation, as I said, we're talking about episode 12 of Married at First Sight. I think it was a very interesting episode. I think different couples had their own individual situations that we can deal with. I like to start strong, because, you know, I've been on Karen's neck for the past few weeks. I want to start on her again because I'm on her neck again. Okay. But no, on a real spot, something else that popped up actually within their relationship was actually to do with Miles. And there was a scenario that was with Woody and Amani, Miles and Karen, as they were sitting down. They hadn't seen each other for a little while, and they came together, and Miles' mouth seemed to run at that point and conjuncture more than we have seen in the past with Karen when he wants to tell her something. So it made me a little bit, I was like, okay, I'm not sure how she's gonna react to that. So my question here is actually, was he right to address the issue that he addressed at that time at the table with those people around it? Was he right to do so? If he was, fantastic, tell us why. If he wasn't, tell us why also you feel like it might not have been a great time too.
I think the fact that Karen already sees Miles as a young boy to her, he doesn't help himself when he's with Woody. You know what I mean? His age comes out as soon as he meets his boy. And that's okay, because that is his boy and that is his age. But I think he holds that bit down when he's with Karen alone. But as soon as he hits his boy, it's like the real thing has to just come out. You get me? And he can't hold it. And so I think he's being authentically himself when you see him with Woody. He's not trying. He's not trying to be something that he's not. He's actually being himself. Good point. And in him being himself means that you're seeing 26-year-old Miles. And so 26-year-old Miles will make decisions like, bro, what do you think about this situation? And what do you think about that? Do you see what I mean? Where that would have been maybe a 26-year-old me, where now the 45-year-old me would be like, well, we'll save that for home.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So I just think Miles is acting like Miles. And that's all right.
I hear that. So if you want to add to that.
I think the thing that struck me most about that whole table scenario was just seeing how one couple looks like a real couple and one couple look like brethren. Like Miles and Karen just looked like they were two kind of friend people that went along to meet their friends who were a couple. Because you saw Woody and Amani having their little couples thing, like, oh, but we ain't getting no dog, and we talked about this last night, and having their little banter. And then it looked very uncomfortable to see Karen and then to see Miles sitting kind of apart, no physical interaction. And it just made me feel like this ain't going nowhere. And then when Miles starts to speak up and start acting like the young man that he is, like you said, Winnie, that's not a problem. Yeah. Like, he shouldn't have to feel bad to act as a 26-year-old. He's 26. But when he adds that in, I feel for Karen, it made her much more aware of, like, actually, that's how it's kind of supposed to look. We're supposed to look like we like each other more than friends. And it just didn't come across.
Where do you think you learn that the timing wasn't right? If that is the case, because I personally felt like the time wasn't right. I'm not 26, I'm 29 now, but I think maybe it's just the way I am. I'm protective, so my relationship stuff, there is if I feel like I'm gonna out you, I'm not about to do it in the public sphere. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to do that one-to-one, because I feel like if you do that to me, we're gonna have beef. Like, do you know what I mean? So why do you feel like someone would be comfortable enough to do? I know that Woody and Amani are friends, but it was, I don't know. There was, I know it might have felt light for him, but the things that he was saying was actually out on him.
Which part of what he said made you feel like, nah, this is the wrong thing, Miles?
Do you know what it was? Do you know what it was? When he started, I thought, okay, he's going somewhere. And I don't really like the fact you're talking about it in general, but okay, you're going somewhere. He wasn't self-aware to realize that Woody and Amani both was like, ooh. And at that point, they were like, oh, this is a bit, even for us, is a bit much. Like, this probably wasn't the best time to have this conversation. Once he wasn't self-aware to see that, I said, oh, that conversation is no longer on the table no more. And in fact, Woody tried to actually get involved and say, listen, let's change the subject. So he changed the subject. And at that point, I felt like, oh, like, do you know what? You've gone and said something you probably shouldn't have said. So for me, it wasn't necessarily that. I just felt like the timing wasn't right. And number two, I would never talk about something that I felt like somebody else was doing wrong in my relationship with an extra party. I might say what I'm doing wrong. Yeah. Because I'm okay with that. But if I haven't discussed that with you previously, I don't understand why I would be doing that and outing you to someone in front of somebody. I don't know. Maybe that's me.
I don't know. I think you sometimes pick it up from experience. So maybe you saw mummy and daddy do it, or you saw auntie and uncle. Me and Kurt made a code quite early on, like, listen, don't at me. And I think that was on the back of seeing a friend out her partner. So it was like, look at each other. Let's don't do each other like that. You get me? Like that. And that was the one that gave us this from here on, that don't work for us. And we just kind of gave each other like you get me? Like, that one is dread. You can't shame us like that. And there was a time when we had a friend and the wife was doing it regular. And it just became cringeworthy for us. Yeah. Where in our own house, we wanted to leave the room. And so for us, by experience, not by our own, we learned by osmosis from someone else's relationship. That ain't for us. And you can have slip-ups. You can have slip-ups, but there's I think as well, like now. And
I think there's also, being in a relationship or in marriage, you have to learn that sometimes your partner's barriers might be lower or higher than your own. So some people might be comfortable to say, for example, I was tidying up and be like, oh yeah, my husband leaves a mess too, blah, blah. Some husbands be like, that's not that personal to me, I'm fine to share that. But some husbands might be like, I don't want you to say that in public. So I think there also comes that thing where you have to learn what is okay and what isn't. But I feel like I agree with Juanita. There are some things that are just clearly off the table. Clearly, we're not talking about the bedroom. We're not talking about the things that we can't conflict manage. We're not talking about those things. Like, they can't be in the public sphere. But I think sometimes there is a gaze that you have to realize where actually I'm not comfortable for you to kind of remark on this in front of people, and you have to learn that. But you have to have a sort of friendship and connection to be able to go away in private and not even, and I guess the difficult thing is not to have the conversation in public, to be like, okay, carry on. And then later on be like, you know, I wasn't comfortable with that. Like, can we please not do that? This is a boundary.
Yeah. Or know each other's body language enough to know. Stop
yeah,
now.
exactly. And you know that when you can be like, they'll be chatting and you're just like, and they're like, oh.
That's what I was.
It's kind of like, and then it's like, but anyways, you know, next subject. You're just like, that's right.
Can get carried away.
Keep that train moving, my friend.
Yeah. Or you can say, like, Kurt would drop stuff like, oh, so we're going there now then, and it's like,
that means
that you're going. You're going
no, you're going back, bruv. You're going back.
Yeah. Come on, let's go back now. So you're just like, all right. And what doesn't help is if when you're talking late, so when you're like they're chilling with brethrens and you know, you're going into the late hours and your tongue just starts getting loose. That's when you really just got to hold the reins on it and be like, I have to really keep that bar. That's the one where I keep my wits about me. It's on that one when it's late. That you're not spilling the whole beans, because you can mash up your run-ins like that easy.
I get what you're saying. How do you? Okay, I think you kind of said it a little bit, but how would you address? Let's say that has happened. Because we're talking about, obviously, because maybe someone's watching this and then maybe they've done that in the past or whatever. How do you address the party who has maybe not a habit, but has done something like that, where they've spoken a bit too much on the subject in front of friends or in front of family, whatever? How do you approach and address that individual person to kind of sort that situation out?
Directly, it's your partner. So when that car door goes boom, then you're like, I didn't like that, you know. That car, we can't do that again. You get me? You're not having them up. You're just saying, look, we are in this together. We have to both shine as bright as each other. We're backing each other. So we just got to be a bit careful. You have to have the conversation, and you can have it. Yeah.
And I think like you can't like, as much as they can maybe like read your body language, you can't assume that they knew how it affected you. You can't just be like, okay, I looked at him, so, you know, no, like you have to have, and I think that's the thing with marriage. And I guess that's what Marriage at First Sight is making them see. You have to talk about everything. Every single thing. You can't have any assumptions. You have to make it very clear all the time exactly what you're thinking and feeling and why you didn't like it, because people aren't mind readers. That's what you learn in marriage. No one is a mind reader. You love them, but they don't know exactly why that thing offended you. So you have to explain. And as Juanita said, it's at the earliest possible moment. She's like, as soon as the car door shuts, at the earliest possible moment, nip it in the buds. And I think as well, something that I'm learning with is to even frame these conversations in an arena of love. My husband's better at this than me. I'll give him credit for that. My husband will be like, you know, babe, like, I'm saying this because like I love you and there was something that I wasn't happy about. I'm not angry at you, but there's something that didn't make me feel. And then he'll frame that in a position so it's already like, I'm not trying to get on you, but we need to discuss this. Whereas like, I think my default when we started dating was like, look here, I was not happy and and you just have to realize those things don't help you to actually remain on the issue. Then it has to come about, why do you come with that tone? All that other stuff. Exactly. So that's what I would say.
I just want to add just a little bit more to that. Like, I remember being maybe 19, 20. I'm a neat freak. I like the house to be clean and stuff like that. And I think it was Christmas or something. And I left my plate, which was quite surprising. I just left it at my feet. I was watching telly with my gran. And my auntie came and said with her strong St. Lucian accent, so you leaving the plate there, you nasty. Now that shattered my whole life. I cried for the whole of Christmas that they would see me as nasty for leaving the plate there by my foot. You get me? But they knew I was somebody who works diligently and hard in the house, and I wasn't playing or slacking like that. But the fact that you just summed me up in front of everybody. So you could be telling a story about your husband and saying, he just leaves the plate when he's finished eating. For him, it's not a bother. You drop that on me, I'm like the whole of the world's thinking I'm nasty. I don't clean my house. So it's also about how it's perceived, how it's taken in, and that's what you got to dissect once the car door shuts. Like, this is how it made me feel, and this is how far it took me back. And you might be thinking that you're going a bit far, but actually, when you said that in front of the peeps that the yard was dirty, it makes me feel like I'm worthless. Sounds extreme, but it does.
Honestly, you've spoken. I think, and do you know what the funny thing is? I've experienced what we're talking about here, and I think it's one of the things I never forgot. And it was a small. It wasn't even heavy. It was just that the thing was an insecurity to me. I think I was at a family's friend's house, whatever, and I was just singing one or two notes, and someone said, "Oh, you can sing really well." And then my missus was like, "Wait, you can sing?" Man, she was busting joke, but I was like, "What?" I didn't say anything. So I just kept it up. Okay, I remember that. That, and I had to pull it up later on. But I remember after that, I've never forgotten it. So I just realized that certain things in public just shouldn't. We have to be very careful and know that once you say it, you can't bring it back, and people hear it. So yeah, I'm hearing that. We'll leave Mars and Karen for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I've got
I know you're saying you're going to leave Mars and Karen. Your foot's not on Karen's neck, right? But I just had to add this little bit about Karen.
Go for the neck.
I think that Karen isn't an all-in person from here on. It sounds strange, but I pick up a timidity even in her voice. It's like the full energy is not coming through. Even when her mum had to raise her chin. And the fact that the dad could be like, "I'm not coming and I'm not going to be on camera."
That's weird.
That. There's a lot to why Karen is who she is, and I feel that it's from the womb all the way up. And so we have expectations of Karen, but from her very vitality, from her voice, has no energy. Even when she's like, "Dang, you're fine." There's such a frailty to it. That I feel that's how Karen came. And Karen wanted a man's man like her dad who would put his foot down and say, "I'm not going to be on camera," to be able to carry that frailty. And so she's looking at this 26-year-old person and going, "You're a boy and you can't possibly manage this frailty. You can't possibly manage what I've gone through. So I'm not even going to invest it and drop it in your lap because you can't carry the weight of it." And so that's why Karen frustrates me, but I think that's what it is really.
And I think the problem, like, that makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the problems that we as a society are, I think, really beginning to touch on is that being a man's man and then being someone like Miles who's in touch with your emotion doesn't mean that he's not strong enough to carry your emotions and to stand beside you and support you. And I think she is conflating the two. So, well, if he's strong in this sense, in terms of his masculinity, then he must be strong all over. And I'm just like, no, you want the guy who's in touch with his feelings and knows how to share them. That's the guy that is going to be able to carry your emotions because he's in touch with his own. And you can see her really putting up these barriers to just, the immaturity of Miles, for me, it's going to develop over time and he will become a bit more mature into what she needs. But I think in terms of like the characteristics that you would want in a man, he has them. And she's just letting it slip through her fingers.
Yes. He needs to draw back though, and then she's gonna come forward.
This is my thing. Give her a little bit of tough love. Give her a little bit of, is he interested? Is he not? She's gonna be on it.
It's too late. It's too late. He can't go back. It's too late. You know what
and it makes me upset because the amount of women we're just like, we don't want someone to play games, but the guys will tell you we play games because it works. Like when you're all out there. A lot of women don't want you when you're all out there with the roses, singing at the window, talking about how much you love them. They don't want it.
A little bit of mystique. Exactly. Edge. This is it.
Miles has none. Miles
has none. He's all out. And I think for the type of woman that Karen is, it's unfortunate because what he's met is somebody who requires, as we're saying, the mystique, who requires the manly man, as you're saying. And I think this is where toxic masculinity actually doubles up, because actually it doesn't just affect the man, it affects women who've also seen masculinity only be in this portion. So she can only react to the program, and she's been programmed, which is, this is how I see masculinity as, and this is how I process it. You know what I mean? That's why and no matter how she tried to defend it after, is that when he said about the depression aspect, she was like, that's not masculinity for me. And it's like, whoa, like, darling, like, whoa, like, depression can get anybody out here. It's like, it's not personal, but it's because the way
she's never seen a man. Maybe she's never seen a man have that. I remember this guy liked me back in the day, and he was very gentle and soft, and I don't think I'm a railroader, but I just wanted to be like, come on, man. Like,
stand up,
man. So I just thought, this can't run, because he's saying hello, like, he was really quite timid, and I thought that can't work for me, because of what I've seen growing up. It was, and what I saw growing up wasn't the best example of masculinity, but it's what I knew. You see what I mean? Yeah,
the programming.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I almost let my husband go because of that when we were dating.
Me too.
Because he wasn't.
Let's talk
seriously.
about it.
He wasn't. I was used to dating guys who were. Women were drawn to their energy when they entered rooms. So they had like very charismatic, light up a room, funny guy. Might not have been like they might not have looked like Morris Chestnut, but their energy alone meant they always had women, always. And I was used to that kind of like, okay, and they kind of had, I wouldn't say they were bad boys, like they had jobs and things like that, but they knew how to talk to women and all of that. So I was really attracted to that. When I started dating my husband, he isn't like that. He's not going to be no, he's not extroverted, introverted. He's not going to be drawing every woman to him. He was much more, I'd focus on one woman and I would pursue them. And like, he's going to sit in a room and enjoy seeing everyone chatting or whatever. He loves to be around people, but he doesn't need to be the focus. He was just like, no, I'm happy to be in the background. So when we started dating, and he's a lot calmer, he doesn't really get angry. He processes his emotions on a much more intellectual level. That's so when when I started dating him now, and then I'm going through this, I remember sitting down with a friend in Frankie and Benny's and saying, I think I'm gonna end it. Like, he's too nice. He's too nice. And honestly, I thank God for friends who can see things better than you can. Yeah. Because I had two specific friends who were just like, number one, they went, what you're used to is the drama. You're used to the ups and downs and the highs and lows, and you don't know where you stand. That's what you're used to. So now you have someone who is consistent and stable across the board. You don't know how to function, because before I thought that, oh, that's the excitement. I need that excitement. And this guy, like, I mean, he just treats me nice, and he calls me when he's supposed to, and he's reliable. And it's just a bit much.
He's not off balance.
And that's what I had to realize. So I had to realize, number one, that what I was looking for wasn't actually good qualities. But I had to realize as well, if I'm being really honest, I had to start thinking, I didn't even think that I was worthy of that, of these guys. And that's what it came down to.
I'm your twin. Yeah.
That's what it came down to. Like, I didn't feel like I was worthy of this good, decent guy, because once he really gets to know me, he's gonna be like, it's all a facade. It's all a facade. And I think that was so scary, but he stuck with me. That's what I have to say. He stuck with me, and I stuck with him, and now I'm just like, God truly knows better than I want. I know God truly wants better for me than I want for myself, because I would have settled down with one of those other guys easy. Easy. If it hadn't have crumbled and fallen to pieces, I would have stuck in it, and I would have ride or died with it. But God had to break it up and be like, I want more for you, but you don't see it yet. But don't worry.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have an identical story to that, but the one I saw had more of a road edge on him, you know what I mean? And but that's who I saw. That was my father, so that's what I saw. And so I was like, well, this is what I'm worthy of. And I remember distinctly singing at a gig, and being in the mirror. Back then we had Mercury 1-to-1. Do you remember that phone line?
Yes,
Mercury.
1-to-1.
Conja's looking at me like, I wasn't even born yet.
That wasn't born, yeah. Sorry, guys.
Mercury after Mercury 1-to-1 came. After Mercury came 1-to-1, and then came T-Mobile, and then came EE. So that was the birth of the mobile. And I remember there was an earpiece. It was only one piece then. It was a little black wire. And speaking to the guy that I shouldn't have been with, and him saying, yeah, when you finish, link me. And as I'm in the mirror getting ready, Curtis comes in, but I can see him in a reflection, but I hear in my mind, what if this is your future? And we hadn't spoken or anything like that. But I was like, what am I doing? I'm speaking to this non-believer, like proper denouncing everything. And God has shown me, no, this is not it. So he's breaking up on this phone. I can't hear him anymore. And Curtis walks in, I see his reflection. And I'm like, I need to make a different choice. And I remember God saying to me, not that I always hear the audible voice of God, but I had this impression. I had an impression was like, right, Lord, I'm brass, man. I'm absolutely broke now. Like, give me somebody. So he's like, right, you can have this 50 quid now. Get your shopping because you're brass. Or you can leave that money, stay here and let me provide for you, and then have an unlimited supply of cash. And I decided to let go of that £50 note. And for me and Curtis, I have an unlimited supply of, of beauty, of gems, of the perfect relationship. Just like Sophie, I had to talk myself into, am I worthy of this? Even past marriage, I had to even say, am I worthy of this? Do you see what I mean? Wow. And now I'm getting used to the fact that, oh yeah, I am. I'm God's daughter, and He was interested enough in me to say, let me select him for you. And He did a fantastic job. So I'm grateful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what? That is amazing, first of all. And second of all, I think that is something that a lot of people can identify with. And I'm not just talking about ladies also, I'm talking about men too. Because I think a lot of us guys, similar to yourself, we learn this through interactions with women. So like when we're younger, we want the feisty girl, we want the rude girl, we want the girl that, the man don't want to chasing down the hill. Yeah. And then as you grow older, you start to realize that's actually not what you're wanting as a man. You just want peace. That's what you need, exactly. You just want peace. You know what I mean? You don't want the argument every week. When you're younger, you could deal with the energy. You had energy to go rounds of arguments every single time and all those kind of things. It was exciting. Peace. I just want peace. You know what I mean? So what you're speaking about is, again, I think something that, and even going back to Karen, even, maybe that is something that she's herself as now encountering, because like you said, it's an experience. You almost have to go through it to be able to understand that, oh my gosh, I have to change my mindset to where I was looking at. That wasn't the right direction. I've got to change it. So I think maybe Karen is potentially going through the exact same thing. Yeah. And what we're seeing right now is the conflict, is the internal conflict of, I know you're a good guy.
Yeah, she knows it. That's the thing. She knows it.
Too nice.
She knows it. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's her problem. And then maybe I had to get off her neck a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just a little though.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Not too much.
Hopefully someone's advising her and telling her, listen, stick at it. That's the main thing there. Yeah. So I hear that. I hear that. Okay, so in saying that, actually, it was quite interesting because I can't remember what we were saying, but it was reminding me of Christina and Henry for some reason. And it might have been Christina made the same kind of point, right? She said that Henry is not fulfilling this role where he is
sex on the first night.
He's not assertive. He's not confident. You know what I mean? Like he's not bringing, the energy. You know what I mean? Because obviously, I know Sophie, you were mentioning and saying, obviously, and yourself, when you said as well that sometimes the presence. This is what you're looking for sometimes, and when you don't get it, it can be scary. So, are we being a bit? I say we, as in the collection of people, are we being a bit harsh towards Christina in that regard? Because she too, maybe that's her programming. I mean, I feel like there's some of the guys she's dated has been a bit way mad. Yeah, and I think her friend kind of admitted it by saying that because you did in the past is bad. But are we doing maybe Christina a bit of a disservice? Maybe she also too is now starting to kind of see maybe that it's hard to date a nice guy.
Do you know what? I think I really resonated with some of the stuff that Christina said this week because I think now being some of it, like, let me tell you.
I just trying to get my back position, mate.
Let me tell you what bit before you jump on me. Let me tell you what bit.
Go for it, though. No worries.
I think I'm becoming more aware now in my second year of marriage, how important it is to still feel desired by your partner.
I rock with that.
Yeah.
It's so important to still feel sexy to them and desired and attractive. And as much as this person married you, it's not enough.
No.
The way that they dated you and looked at you and talked at you at the beginning and on the marriage day and all the stuff, it's not enough to get you through the rest of your life. Just like, well, he did desire me, so I know it. No, you still want to.
You've got to be knowing it.
You got to be knowing it. You want them to see you, and when you walk in the room, still just look at you like, damn, yes, that's mine. Yeah. That right there. You still want that, and when they're put into a position where they haven't dated this person before, they've met them on the wedding day, and then you've committed to this person, whether it's going to last or not, they took a massive step committing to somebody who they don't know if it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And then to not know whether this person is even attracted to you or desires you or like, I think that's a difficult position. And she's saying she's used to having sex on the first night. I think we need to remember this is someone who said she had low self-esteem, and she was now saying that she used to sex tonight. Maybe that's tied up with the fact that she liked to be desired. So maybe that's tied up with that. But now she's with someone who she can't even tell if he's interested. It's kind of like, do you find me attractive? Yeah. So I really resonated with that because I'm just like, nah, I still want my husband to want me. So I think for Christina, what she's asking in some aspects is what she should be expecting. Yeah. And Henry just doesn't seem to be clicking with it.
I think Henry's capable of clicking with it. I think he just doesn't want to with Christina. Because you know when his friend came,
he can't be that naive. You're right.
He gave full eye contact. He didn't do that looking away business.
That's
he was
true.
Straight in her eyes. His head was up. He was speaking straight. So I feel like just get with your brethren. Just keep it moving, Henry. Lock off. Don't wait for the next month. Like, you're wasting the rent on Gotham Apartments. You're wasting the rent. You're wasting the woman could be on a flight right now. Well, she can't be because COVID just licked. But she could be doing some work or finding somewhere to live. I think Christina's just longing at the thing because she knows she ain't got a yard. Because remember when she packed up the things, she just went in her car and got her things.
Yeah, got her things. That was it.
So I think she's dragging it out and then she will hold on to the place throughout COVID. You get me, for free. But I also think that Christina, her frustration comes out on the production.
Yeah.
Because production are forcing it.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
And so we knock her and think that girl's so rude. Or she's so prissy. But I think that she's thinking, come on, man, this ain't working. Send him home, leave me with the flat. I'll ride COVID in here.
Do you know what? I really felt for Christina when the friend was talking to Henry. Because I was like, who is this woman? Like trying to say to Henry, yeah, it's not working. You need to done the marriage. You need to realize, Henry. Yeah. I was just like, who are you? Like,
are you?
And it just made me so upset because and when I watched that, my thing was, you need to be so careful about the people you let talk to you about your relationship.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah.
You need to be so careful because like having that person, those thoughts, those seeds that they're planting don't go anywhere. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
When things go bad, you start ruminating on, well, my friend who's known me and cares about me, they did say that they thought maybe it isn't, maybe this is a sign, maybe like those things carry on. And when she's talking about, look how rude she was to production and this and that, I'm like, this is a very pressurized situation. Yeah. They've got cameras 24 hours a day and I'm like, maybe she's not reacting the best, but trust me, my husband's seen me act some way to some people sometimes where he's just like, babe, you need to calm down and you need to slow your roll because like, I know you're upset about XYZ, but don't take it out on that person. Yeah. So I feel like the friend is just planting all these little seeds of doubt, and it's just not helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I think that friend is capable of what Solomon said, of corrupting character. Do you know what I mean? I think definitely. She's definitely, because she didn't even know Christina for 5 minutes in the wedding.
This is
and with
true.
her drunken self was already making an assessment.
Mm.
Those kind of friends corrupt character, so you have to be careful who's around.
That is very, very true.
Yeah.
That is very, very true. I do remember that in the wedding. She was having a lot to say, even though
Yes.
she didn't know her. And then she still gave her a hug. I hear that.
Oh, that was horrible. I was shouting at the TV, don't hug her! She's a liar! She's fake!
But it's actually true. I definitely hear that. And I think as you are discussing, I think just to go back onto Christina just quickly as well, because I think the friend was mentioning to her that he actually liked Henry, because every other guy before that was really like, to understand, if he likes Henry, that's how bad these guys were before.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That's a good
Rinse
point.
and move on.
He was making it clear that the people that you had dealt with, this is nice. Like, stick with it, deal with it. The other guys are, listen, they were trash. Like, they were really bad. Like, you know, and that's why I was asking, because I was wondering, is she going through, well, I mean, I would say Karen's a bit more into the process, but with Christina, it's a bit more difficult because Miles is not Henry. I think they're miles apart. I think maybe if Christina had a Miles, maybe she might be looking what Karen's doing. But Henry's just so, I mean, he's socially awkward when it comes to her relationship with her. Anyway, right?
Yeah.
With her, he's awkward. And several times when you're watching them having conversation, he's not giving you enough to feed on. Like, I know that sometimes she goes and gets, you know, antagonized. But I remember one of the arguments they had previously, a few episodes back, and she asked me a question, and he was like, I don't know. And I was like, bro, listen, it's a conversation, bro. You got to give me something here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it can be so frustrating to have someone like that who's not allowing you to feed. He's not feeding you anything, you know?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I do understand her frustration, even when it goes to the production, because it's like, I'm forcing the thing, and even when I'm forcing it, he's still not delivering.
Yeah,
you know. So and maybe it's time to discuss about the fact that maybe Henry just does not like this woman. Just doesn't like her.
He don't. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think that marriage is gonna last. Like, I couldn't stay in that with a guy who doesn't even want to chat to me. I couldn't do it. Like, no. That's the one thing. I love talking to my husband. I love talking to him. I love hearing his thoughts on things. But like, so having a guy who doesn't even want to make the effort to conversate, that can't go.
You would pick that up on the first date, though. If I saw that on the first date.
Do you know what I mean? I think I maybe make it to a second. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, maybe he was shy, maybe he's a little awkward. Do you know? Maybe it's that. But after like a second, he's still not giving me nothing back. I'm like, no,
nah. I think when we was about what, 15, no, about 16, 17, one of my brothers liked this guy. They were twins though. So I think she thought, well, if I like one, you're gonna like the other one, but I didn't. And I remember he was supposed to link us up. And we saw the brother from far. They used to be in Wembley, they used to have a conference centre. It was like a round building. We saw my man walking on all fours, come like a lion. He hit me from far. We saw him walking on all fours. So I don't know why he was walking on all fours, but he didn't know we could see him. From far, we saw him. And I was just like, this is beyond socially awkward. Let's go. There's no mobile phones. You don't know we're seeing him. I'm out. You get me?
Yeah.
That is beyond socially awkward. So there's certain things you pick up on the first date. And we saw on the first date, my man walking like a lion on the steps of Wembley Conference Centre. I'm out. Out. Yeah.
How important is and I'm saying not even communication, but conversation, like good conversation. How important is that to maintain? Because both of you are married, so how important is that to maintaining this relationship, a marriage? Because obviously we're dealing with Henry and Christina here. There's a lack of conversation. How important is conversation in marriage?
I think conversation is also as important as silence. You can be silent in a marriage without being embarrassed about the silence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can drive, or we're driving far and we're both silent. or
But it's comfortable.
you got your hand on my leg,
True.
I got my hand on your hand on the steering wheel, whatever. We're just silent, we're chilled. And then we'll catch up and say, you all right? What are you thinking? What's going on? Regroup and talk. I think talking is important because it just allows the other person to know where you're at. You're still building a friendship. They're still getting to know you because as you're alive, breathing, and have your being, you're growing, you're changing. So you're getting them to see you in development. And I think that a good conversation is always a good thing. There's sometimes when you're like, oh gosh, too much talking, man. I had a long day. You know what I mean? But then there's some days where it's like, no, man, I want to talk to you. There's sometimes when Kurt will shut the front door, we was on the phone and I was like, where are you? And he was like, I'm at the door, open the door. Do you know what I mean? Take out the earpiece, turn it off so you don't get the interference, and we carry on talking. Because we want to talk. We want to hear. I want to feedback. I want to hear from you. I want you to be the first to say, what do you think of that? I can get every opinion under the sun. What does Kurt think about this?
Yeah.
Because I know it's rounded and balanced. So I think conversation is very, very important, but it's not always necessary all the time, but it's important.
Yeah. And I feel like for me as well, just to add on to that, what I try to do as well is stay informed. In fact, stay curious about what's going on around me and in the world so that I can always keep up interesting conversations, like so I can talk to them about something. Because I was reading this article and it was talking about the sex dying in your marriage. And it was talking about you can really gauge certain stuff by, they went, look at the last 10 text messages that you sent to your partner. And they were just like, the text message that you sent to your husband, the last 10 are probably going to be very different. Exactly. Are going to be very different to the ones you sent when you were dating, which are probably going to be a bit more sexy and suggestive.
You know, I wrote them out. I wrote the texts that we sent when we were dating. I had this book and I didn't know how long the mobile phone was going to last. With the Nokias. And so I had a book where I used to write all the special texts out that he sent me from the first text all the way till we got married.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. The last text was, don't forget the cat food. I'll do better this week.
Do you know what I mean? So I make sure as well. I make sure that I stay like interested in things that are going on so that I'm not just falling into the rut of talking about the house and the food and what needs to be fixed, so that I can talk to them like, oh babe, I read this article about such and such and such, like what do you think? And it's just little things like that to make sure that you're keeping the marriage interesting, because it's very easy to fall into the day-to-day stuff and not to think about actually, how do I actually make sure that we're not just going through the motions? And sometimes you find stuff interesting. I mean, I'm not someone who's interested in politics at all. But when Kurt breaks it down, it's just like, really? For real? Is that what's going on? Do you think Trump's in the thing? Trump's not in the thing. Trump's doing his own thing. You get me? And it becomes so interesting when we start talking, you know, about politics. And he told me to watch that Michael Moore documentary. I finished it today, the Fahrenheit 11/9. And I'm interested to go back and talk to him about what was going on in Flint. Do you know what I mean? With the lead in the water and stuff. I heard of it, but I didn't know the details. But for me to go back and say, yeah, remember you knew all those details of that. Now I know it. So you're not getting left behind. It's so true, because it's good to try and work on those interests where they can overlap where they can. Because I was always kind of into sport growing up.
Okay.
But my husband is a sports fanatic. Every sport, probably apart from horse racing, everyone, motor racing, tennis, football, not rugby, like basketball, everything. So right now the basketball NBA finals are on. And like when he's watching sport, I usually just kind of sit down and read a book with him. But I started watching it and now we're so into it. Like he's talking to me about the plays and who's starting. And it's just another thing to share. Like you have to be willing to find those comments in. You have to. And it's just really helped, because now I'm probably more into it than him sometimes. I'm waking up like, can I watch it without you? Because you're like, do I have to wait to watch it?
The takeover things.
Exactly. But yeah, it's very important to try and do that to keep the marriage interesting.
I love what you guys said there as well. And I think that is something that we all have to kind of pick up, which is that you do have to kind of, I guess, even if it's not your immediate interest, to show interest. You know what I mean? And I think that is where I guess Christina and Henry may be suffering. You know, it's like they're in polar worlds. It seems like they're in worlds apart, and they seem to be at opposite ends when it comes to where their desires lie. And I think they're consistently, I won't even say clashing, they're consistently just not in the same zone. They're missing each other by miles. So it's interesting to watch them, I guess, consistently just kind of miss each other and not get in the same space, which is unfortunate. So I don't know how COVID is gonna play it, because we're gonna see that tomorrow, but I'm not sure how COVID is gonna affect it. How do you guys think that COVID would affect their relationship? Specifically their one, because they don't talk. So I want to
look. I'm saying, COVID is the separator of men. I am telling you that
the tears, man,
will not grow together anymore. Not anymore. I know plenty relationships that did not make out of COVID, and those people liked each other. So let alone people on the edge like Christina and Henry. Like, I just feel, what's it gonna do to their relationship? I think it's just gonna rip them apart. Like, being together in that space where they can't escape, they can't talk to anybody, they can't speak to a friend, they haven't gonna have a sounding board. You just have this person that won't communicate. I think we're probably gonna see, in my opinion, a nasty side to Christina. Like, in terms of not, because if she's got that for the producers, and she was able to see her friends and get a bit of respite from him, what's going to happen when she's just stuck indoors with him, can't go nowhere, and it's just like they're just on each other all the time? I think she's just going to be saying some things that are just out there and really hurtful.
But she ain't breathing out because she needs the yard.
I guess I ain't got nowhere else to go. So.
I ain't got nowhere else to go. No one's flying. You get me?
You get me? Real spit. It's true spit. Do you know what's interesting? Obviously, Christina has addressed him a few times, and on those occasions, the words have been a little sharp, a bit like Worcester sauce, a bit sharp. Okay. In a relationship, how do you curb that? Because, and when I say curb, as in maybe you're the person that's got a sharp tongue. Maybe you've got, you can lash people when you need to. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you gotta go, you gotta go. How do you curb the tongue then in that case? Because obviously, in order to make a relationship work, I'm guessing that has to be curbed in some shape or form. How would you go about curbing that in that regard? Like, do you know what I mean?
The Bible says the tongue is a one-tongue killer. You get me? It can't be bridled. I think I'm careful that the words I say don't hurt and have a lasting impact. That you're not like, in 92 you said that to me and it still hurts. You know what I mean? I'm careful of what I say. My tone is not always great. I come from a St. Lucian background. St. Lucian people speak hard. You get me? And it's just what I've grown with. Like, move that thing from there. That is really just saying, can you just move the thing like from there? But it sounds like you're in trouble. So every time someone met my gran, they always thought they was in trouble. It's like, no, that's how she speaks. So sometimes I can resemble that tone. Kurt addresses it a lot. He'll be like, I've got better through the years, but he'll be like, one, that tone don't work for me. That tone don't work. And so I've got to change the tone. And so if it comes out wrong, I will say very quickly, sorry about my tone. I can do it in seconds now. Sorry, I know that I didn't mean to say it like that, but I know you would have heard it like this. Sorry about my tone. So I am picking it up quicker. And I also see the impact it has. When I have the wrong tone, it brings separation. I don't like the separation. So I have to take time and really slow down in my head. With not what comes out, it's how it comes out.
How it comes out.
Yeah. And if you're listening, unfortunately, about what Juanita said, sometimes that only comes with time. Learning to say sorry immediately, not trying to make it like that comes with time, because I think that I'm definitely someone, what I say definitely comes out harsher a lot of times than what I would probably want it to be. My bark is definitely worse than my bite. And My husband is very much as well, would be like, that just did not sound nice. Like he doesn't have that. He always speaks quite gently and quite calm.
Yeah.
And I think for me, seeing the way that it affects somebody that you love, like if you really care about someone, it's not going to change overnight, but you have a desire to be like,
yeah,
I really want to work on this because it doesn't make them feel nice. And I want them to be happy, and I want them to, I hope this comes out the right way, like me still. Like, and not because it would make him not love me, but I don't want him to be like, I love you, but sometimes I just don't want to be around you. And like, you don't, it's not, you don't want that. So that has been helped me to kind of curb it. And also sometimes me walking away, just been like, you know what, I'm going to say something that probably is not going to come out good. I'm going to just go over here and just have a bit of time before I can address this in a way that's respectful. Because what I hate having to do is talk about the way that I've said something, which, and then you have to talk about that. And then you have to go back and talk about the issue you was actually talking about. And I hate that so much. So I'm like, do you know what? Let me just go away. So when I come back, we can actually focus on what the real issue is. Yeah. Not the way that I've come at it.
I love that. And I think I think you guys have touched on it once or twice now, talking about how when you are conversating, there's the tone and then there is what's been said, and how you can end up having two arguments inside of one. So it's like not just what you said, it's also the way you said it as well now come into impact. And then actually that can take, like you said as well, that can take away from the actual argument that you actually were having or debate you were having originally, because someone felt like the way you delivered it hasn't been in the most loving format. So I appreciate it. I think that is something that is key, I think, in any relationship, to deal with the tone. Guys, I hope you guys are listening to the tone. So I know some of us got some tones up in there. Okay, some tones. Okay. Okay, cool. So, and it's actually, speaking of tone, that's actually interesting, because the next person that we are talking about is also talking about tone, which was Brett. Brett mentioned in the last episode that he felt like Olivia was a little bit rude. He said that he felt like the way she says certain things, it's not running for him. You know what I'm saying? It don't touch his spirit the way it needs to touch him. You know what I mean? So with Olivia and Brett, I think we got to see some great conversation with them and Pastor Cal. And then we got to see later on, I think she addressed him about his sarcasm. I want to ask a question. I just wanted to say, what was your immediate thoughts on that episode with Olivia and Brett? What was your kind of thoughts towards their relationship and where they were at then?
I feel like they made progress. I honestly, I feel like they made progress. And the thing that I loved the most was seeing them behind the scenes. So, you know, she was saying, I feel like he's a different person behind the scenes, and they cut to them kind of play fighting on the sofa, and he's picking her up, and he's like, and he's like, he's giving her kisses. I'm just like,
never saw that coming.
Exactly, never saw it coming. So I really like the fact that it's kind of like, I thought something was there. Like, she was trying to fight it for the longest time. I'm like, there's obviously something there. But I think what was most key was what Pastor Cal really picked up on, was that she makes a lot of her decisions from fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, whereas she tries to put it on him and say, it's because you're sarcastic, it's because I don't know if you're in this. What it really comes down to is she's afraid she's going to get hurt. So she's trying to go at it and go at him to kind of, as a self-protection barrier. But the pastor was just like, you can't act from fear, because she was just like, I'm gonna trust him until he gives me something not to trust. And he was just like, no, you just gotta trust him. And I was just like, that is a word.
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that, Juanita?
I think exactly the same as Sophie, that she's operating from a place of fear. There's parts of me that kind of relates to Olivia, even though she annoys me.
She is annoying, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I can even, there's some eye expression, some expression she does with her eyes. It's quite vacant, it doesn't blink, it just pans, and I just want to go, stop it. But I relate to aspects of what she's doing. I think that's why she chooses me off the most, because I'm like, that place of fear that she's operating from, I've operated from there myself, where it's just like, you know, you're kind of second guessing, Is this all right? You know, you can be a bit nitpicky.
Yeah.
I didn't go in as deep as her, but there's parts of me what says that this is a scared little girl who was seeing a failed relationship from her mother and father, and that's how she's walking. She's walking in fear at the moment. So that's as simply as it is for me. She's walking in fear. But does he have the tenacity to stay with it, to work with it? Right now, he's shocking me when he's like, you know, I love that smile and I love this. And now I understand why, because we saw that behind the scenes camera. And
Exactly.
I'm like, you are getting more of her when she's relaxed. So she is all right when she's not in fear. When she's in love, that fear is gone. Do you know what I mean? And so I totally relate to that. When I'm like, when I'm cool, I'm not worried about anything. That's me with a candid camera on me. Do you know what I mean? It's just like I'm cool. So yeah, I just think she's walking in fear. Right now he has the strength to manage it, but I can't help but thinking that next week he's gonna clear out the yard and go about his business.
When I saw that promo clip, I'm just like, I want to see how this goes down. You know, right? I was just like, what is honestly, guys, my husband doesn't watch Married at First Sight, and I begged him, watch this with me. Like, please. He was like, fine. My man was in it deep. Like, what? No, Olivia's playing with him. And like, he was in it. Never seen an episode before. But I wanted to know what you guys thought when Olivia said, you know, she was just like, he has such a strong personality. I feel like if I don't stand up for myself, if I'm not kind of like bolshy, basically is what she's saying, then I'm just going to be kind of overwhelmed and he's going to railroad me.
Yeah, and I get it like, as well.
I was just like, wow, okay.
I didn't give her the side eye for that. I didn't. I actually thought, no, I didn't.
Give her all sorts of side.
I actually thought, yet again, that's the programming. Do you know what I mean? That you're gonna be too strong for me, and I'm gonna just turn to dust. Yeah. And so, as I said, I've come from that background where father was strong, violent, and it's like I don't want to repeat that.
I hear you.
So I don't want to not be heard. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be crushed down. So there's always that I have to fight. I've got to prove my point. I've got to make it like, well, no, you're being sarcastic. I'm not doing what Olivia's doing. I haven't done what Olivia's done. But I can understand where she's coming from. I can understand her motives are from her programming, are from her experience, her lived experience of the fact that she's had to fight to be heard.
To get to her, yeah.
So that's what she doesn't want to have to do that here.
I hear that, and I do agree that I want to add the other side. I want to be nice to her, and the reason I want to be nice to her is because I'm sick and tired of hearing Brett's sarcasm, and for me, it would drive me nuts. You understand? Because at points you're not really sure whether he's coming or going. The level of sarcasm that he brings, like there are sarcastic people and there are sarcastic people, and he is a sarcastic people where everything is sarcasm. It's like you're never sure whether you are there or whether you're not there. So I when I was watching it, I thought both of them are not original when they're on the camera. Because if you both are doing fiddly diddly behind the camera, Olivia also too, you're not giving us the full perspective when you're on the camera. And he too, you must not be doing a sarcasm behind the scene because she's comfortable. So both of you
in his lap.
Was stroking up head and top like you know, this is Samson and Delilah. Like what's going on?
She was deep in the lap. She wasn't even perched.
He literally
she was deep.
I was shocked.
She got in there. Man. She got in there.
So
two more moves, it would have been over. You get me?
You know what I mean? I was shocked because obviously they don't do physical touch on camera. Like, do you know what I mean? So I was genuinely shocked by that. But I definitely hear that. They I think both of them operate from a place of fear because he too was saying that he was scared that she would leave. That was his thinking. So I think also he too's got some fear because remember his girlfriend cheated on him. So he too's also got some fear, and that makes maybe that's making the sarcasm come very, very strong as well. I don't know. Maybe that's helping. I don't know. What do you guys talk about that? Because he also said that as well. So
look, I honestly think Olivia and Brett can work. That's my thing. I think these two can work, and I think they show very clearly. You can feel like, oh yeah, that relationship was in the past. It doesn't matter. but you bring all this baggage in with you. All these fears that you had about my girlfriend cheated, so I don't know if I can trust another woman, or I've been overpowered by a guy before in terms of their personality, and I felt like, you know, I wasn't allowed to have a voice. So now I'm gonna make sure that like all these things, all these things that you bring in. And this is the thing that they probably didn't realize, is that marriage only really shows you exactly who you are. And the stuff you work on. That's what marriage shows.
That's what it does. I always say it's a crash course, a personal development crash course. Do you know what I mean? And they have to unpack those bags in that small yard. They won't be able to breathe.
Yeah.
But we come with bags. It's inevitable.
It's true. You can't. Whether you're someone who's dated 50 man before you got married, or if you dated one man, like there are going to be things that you bring in, assumptions that you bring in
the door. Yeah,
exactly. So I think now we're starting to see all the baggage on that they're bringing in from fears and past treatment.
Yeah,
and this is really going to see whether they have what it takes now to get to the next level. But I'm gunning for these two. I just believe that there's something there.
I hear you. Obviously with Olivia and Brett, you know, I can see that they're trying to, that with Pascal's help, they looked like they were trying to make some real headway. I think watching, obviously there was an interaction, I can't remember what was said, but it was that he was asking Olivia, why do you feel the way she felt? And she couldn't actually articulate how she felt. And I was wondering if that is part of the frustration, because I don't know how do you, in a marriage, how do you deal with the fact that you're feeling something, but may not necessarily have the vocabulary or the words to be able to articulate what you're feeling? How do you deal with that in a marriage sense? And can that be a frustration? Or is that just something that just, you know, is bygone by bygone?
I feel that's an over time thing as well. And sometimes not. I know Kurt gave an example yesterday. And basically he had to go into the office, and I said, again, you have to go again next test. You have to go again.
I love the fact you're paying attention.
Again? I was. And because I lived it. And then I said, I maybe on the third attempt or fourth, I said, what I'm really trying to say is I want you to keep safe more than your job. Do you know what I mean? I want you to be safe. In terms, you're traveling a lot, and I just would like you home. I want everybody in the nest. I want you close. When you go to work, it's not the same. I want you to work at home. That's what I really wanted to say, but instead it took 3 days of me going, you're going again? You're going again? And again? So sometimes it takes me a while to get to the core of it, or sometimes it will take really digging and saying, what are you trying to say, Juan? It's not because I'm not articulate. It's not because I don't have the words. Sometimes my emotions will come out before the words, where it's just like, you have to go again. You have to go again. What I really want to say is, I just want to be with you, like, or just stay home, like, all day. But it can take a while sometimes to get to what you're really saying. You just got to pray that your partner has that patience to wait for it to come out. I suppose I nearly said I don't stutter, and then I went but it's like somebody who stutters. It's having that patience. If you try to rush them, they'll just stutter more. But if you have that patience, it will come out eventually. So Kurt knows it will come out eventually, or sometimes it come out straight away. It depends on how I feel emotionally and where I am. And I'm aware of it. I knew what was happening. But at that time, I didn't want to stick it on him, like, as if to say, I just want you home all the time. It just didn't feel like the day. So I was just like, you going again? So I was trying to time it, really. And then eventually it came out. So take time with each other. Give that grace.
And I think as well, really spending time getting to know yourself and your feelings, because it comes with a certain sort of self-awareness. Yeah. And a lot of times the reason maybe is because she's never actually sat down to think about why it is that she's feeling, or no, why she's acting the way she's acting. Like, where does that feeling come from? Yeah. When my husband and I did premarital counseling, something our counselor said to us that was just so profound, and we've really remembered it. He was like, always remember that anger is a secondary emotion. Yeah. So there is something underneath the anger So when your partner's angry, you need to work out what is that other feeling. So my husband will say to me, which has probably not had the best responses, he's like, when I'm angry, what are you really feeling? I'm like, no, I'm really angry. What I'm feeling is the anger. It's the anger because of what you've done. Don't try and psychology me, my friend. It is the anger. But
I'll try to analyze me.
Exactly. But there is always a feeling under there. And sometimes, a lot of times it can be hurt, shame, pain, embarrassment, sadness, all these things. And sometimes when I'm angry, he's like, what's really going on? And I'll deflect until the point I'll be like, I don't know. And I'm like, I actually need to go and sit down and just try and go through what is it that I'm actually feeling. So what Olivia was saying is a very real thing, because once you're around, not all the time we know what it is. Sometimes you can feel sad and you're like, what are you sad about? And you're like, I don't know. I just don't feel right. And you've had to, you've got to go through the process. And what I found is that people use a lot of coping mechanisms instead of trying to get to the root cause. Some people might drink, some people might eat, some people might have sex, some people might, you know, argue, do all these things because they're not taking the time to work out what is it that's going on with me and what do I need to address.
I can rock with that. I appreciate that. That's real. That's real. I like the comment about the anger thing because that's real. And I think, and this is why I think in relations are even interesting, because I think you said it, both of you said it as well, is that even when you do the right thing by saying, okay, so what's the underlying issue here? Person's like, I don't need psychoanalysis. What I need you to understand is that I'm vexed. Okay.
Well, I'm like, what I need you to do is not do what you're doing. Don't deflect from what you've done.
Right, Sophie, that's it.
So that's a real thing. So you're absolutely right. Even in trying to repair it, you can still, you know, have issues there as well. I guess obviously then moving on to Woody and Amani, obviously I call them the perfect couple because, you know, they seem to be just sailing through black love, you know what I'm saying? They are the couple goals, you know what I'm saying? They are showing everybody else the way, you know what I mean? They've been running this race and leading for the whole entire time. And I think we discussed it a little bit behind the scenes. We did speak a little bit about spending. So we spoke about budgeting, and it's actually interesting. This is one conversation I've actually had with the missus myself, which is that understanding that people have different habits when it comes to spending. So I guess I'm going to ask this question: how important is talking about finances within your relationship or marriage? How important is discussing finances and the habits that come along with that?
You have to. It's like a foundational principle. Your house is gonna fall down.
Literally.
He made me nervous when he did his budget and said, you know, about how much money he was going to spend on clothes and whatever. That's because he's been living with Granny and she's been preparing the foods and everything else. He hasn't. And the
house is already paid for, and he don't have to do that. The house is already paid for.
So for you could see in her face that she was thinking, we're gonna have to do some sitting down and learning here. You know, even the date night stuff. How much he wants to spend on the date night
a week,
like, brother. You pop some popcorn in the pot and sit at home watch Fahrenheit 11/9. You get me? You can do that for free. But I was nervous with his budgeting skills. He made me nervous, and I felt like I could feel his maturity levels at that time. I don't think that's it for him. I think if he's humble enough, he will sit down and learn a different way, and he's gonna have to recycle some of them hats and some of them garms you're gonna have to wear twice. You get me? You're gonna learn in COVID. You're gonna learn.
I was extremely worried when I watched that bit. Extremely worried, because he just doesn't really understand the value of a dollar. Like he just, the way he's talking, he wants to spend 150 a week on date night, but he's talking about he wants this big house with the yard and he wants this. And I'm just like, my friend, how's that going to happen? Because you're living with your grandmother and the baby and the dog. I'm like, where's all this money? Like literally, I'm watching this with my husband. All he kept saying is, what does this guy work as? He was just like, what's he work as? Because he's talking about getting diamonds after a month, and he's talking about he wants to have this and that and 150 on date night, and And it's so important. Like, again,
He's a
I'm
PE
talking about marriage.
teacher.
Sorry?
He's a PE teacher.
He's got bread.
He ain't got bread as a PE teacher. I just watched that documentary. Said some teachers have to work 2 jobs.
Oh Lord.
He must be working at like some elite private school.
Yeah.
Training their rowing team or something in his spare time. Because exactly, because I think, again, I talk about marriage counsel when I had it, talked about money. They always talk about money because they're like, this is going to impact your relationship. This is going to impact you. And they said I think we did the list to talk about describe how you look at money. How do you look at money? And we worked out, my husband looks at money as security. I look at money as freedom. So similar, but very, very subtle differences that make all the difference.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
he likes to see it in the bank, and that makes him feel okay. It's
me.
there. Okay, we're good because the money's in the bank.
Absolutely.
Whereas I'm like, once the bills are paid, we're free to do this. Let's do that. We can go experience and blah blah blah. I'm like, and he's just like, we need to. I'm like, but babe, we've paid the bills. We can now. Let's just be like a slot machine. Let's just go. And whereas like that seemed cool, like now we're in marriage, it's very much like having to, because everybody feels the way that they deal with money is the right way.
Yeah.
So now you're having to work on, well, I think we can buy this, but I'm now living with someone who's just like, we don't need to buy it. Is it necessary? Let's just keep it in the bank. But I'm like, the bills are safe. We're good. We can have the freedom now to blah, blah. So money is going to be centrally important, and dealing with somebody who just lets money flow through their hands and doesn't seem to prioritize what's important is going to get you in a very dangerous position when you're married. And I don't think they're at the point of realizing how much it's going to impact, because the sex can be good, they can be supportive, but if you never have that financial stability, like you feel like you're always going to be on the breadline, or you're living in debt, and
unnecessarily too.
Unnecessarily, like the diamonds were lovely. Were they necessary? After a month,
I would have been nervous getting them earrings.
If we're starting on the diamonds, what are you going to get me after a year?
Yeah, that's what I said. I would have been nervous.
You can't start that.
I like gifts. Yeah. I like gifts, but I'm just like,
you started too high,
so worried, because I'm like, maybe if we're starting on the diamonds, like you're not making enough money to drop diamonds after 1 month.
And then my man in the diamond shop gives you the card as if to say,
as a come back again.
My name is come back again.
I'll see you soon, Woody.
Come back again.
Good business.
I'll see you soon.
Let me take these out so we can go buy some bread. Nah, that ain't for me. I'm nervous. I'm nervous of Woody. I mean, Sophie, you got the upgrade on the counselling. 19 years ago, they just told us to have one account. 20 years ago, they told us to have one account for the bills and 2 separate ones for your own fun. I think after life and loss and everything else that came with it, it's always been the one account. It's always been our money, not your money, not my money, not he's broke, we're broke, not he's rich, we're rich. And so that's how we've done that simple approach on it. I think a lot of our money management skills, yet again, has been inherited. Black people don't talk about money. It's when you're dead. It's when you're dead. When they're dead and gone, then you find out how they felt about money and how much they left you. Do you know what I mean? But Black people don't really deal in money. So what I'm having to do now, and what we're doing in our 40s, is actually catching up and looking at people, millennials who have, especially Black millennials who have shows like Anthony O'Neill, who talks about money management and, you know, debt, getting rid of your debt and side hustles and stuff like that. We feel like we're 20 years behind of what the world's doing now, and having to jump on that and say, actually, we got to view money differently. We can make money differently. You know, the only side hustles that we knew back in the day, I was just go uni, go work. I had some friends who would be able to plait hair on the side.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I didn't know how to do that. But my daughter, our oldest daughter, who's 17, she plaits hair on the side with an Instagram page. She also paints, does art and sells those in auctions. She also custom makes and designs like trainers. So we've taught her and my son as well, who's 12, who's also designed the label. Yeah, to say, look, do it different than us. You also, you have your job, you work towards your career, but you also have your side hustle. And this is what you do with your money. And we have planned with the children to sit down maybe at least once a month and say, we want you to learn how to work this out and not do it in ignorance like we did, where nobody spoke about money till grandma died. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't want it like that.
So true.
So you did get a one up on us. So Woody made me nervous. Woody still makes me nervous even outside of the money though. That kind of brother couldn't really, I wouldn't want him to step to me. I just like Amani, I think I'll be skeptical. Like, how long is this going to last? How long can you keep this up?
I know what you mean.
Know, how long are you going to call me sweets for? Is this energy going to fade? Am I going to fade with it? Am I going to be let down when you no longer, swoop me up and get my feet done and buy me the diamond earrings? So I get nervous with him. I do appreciate the way he does look after her now, though. And when that man hold that woman and kiss her, he hold her like a black man for the whole planet, man. You get me? Every black man should be looking at that and saying, this is how you get the full goods. You get me? So when the way he treats her, I can see why she's so open to him, but also skeptical at the same time. Like, how real is this, and how long is it gonna last? And so that's what makes me nervous about Woody. And I don't want to see the demise of Woody on the show or the downfall. But I'm like, bruv, let go of the facade, the games a little bit. Yeah. Let yourself come in at the same time, so we don't get, and Amani doesn't get that shock of when you run out of steam. That's my concern for it.
I think COVID is definitely going to show us what everybody's like.
Yeah, because someone slides into his DMs.
Yeah, well, it's true. And I think something that my husband says to me is that, he's like, anyone can have a good time together. It's that's about true. when things go a bit wrong, that's when it really separates whether this is going to work or not. Because you can have a good time with, like, you can think about ex-partners that you've been with. It's like, you had a great time sometimes. We had the best time, but when stuff hit the fan, it was just like, okay,
where are you?
Where are you? Or that reaction is very scary. I don't know if that's going to be something that I can put up with, or he disappears when things get difficult and I'm left holding the bag and everything else until he feels safe enough to come back. All those exactly. All those stuff that happens. So I think when this COVID situation comes, because right now, let's be honest, the show is providing them somewhere to live. Every flat looks exactly the same. Exactly. It's providing them somewhere to live. They're probably having a food allowance. Like, they're not really doing that much right now. So these are perfect circumstances to date somebody in. Where you don't have to worry about bills or whatever, and you can just focus on each other. But come COVID now, when life is going to get a bit more tough and you don't even have the freedom. We know what COVID was like for us, because obviously where this is being filmed before, we know how it's been affecting us in terms of not being able to go out and being cooped up in the house and not being able to see loved ones. I saw my mum for the first time in a couple months this weekend. I haven't seen it in person. Do you know what I mean? That's the reality of it. And now putting these strangers in this position, we're about to see what Woody is really like when stuff gets real tough.
Which is why probably the DMs happened.
I think he got a bit
claustrophobic.
A bit claustrophobic. So someone just slid in the DMs. You get me? He took comfort in that. I mean, I know we're preempting next week, but I'm just like, Woody, man, stay with it, man. You two are good together. Disprove us, because in the beginning, the friends and family said they don't know what
they were like, yo, this guy ain't gonna make it. Honestly, they were like,
I think that's what worries me the most.
I think so, me too.
Because the honeymoon period, the honeymoon period is the honeymoon period is the honeymoon period is the honeymoon period. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. You're gonna think they're the perfect person. They're gonna be ticking all the boxes. And then his friends are kind of like, we know he ain't really got no substance. And I don't believe, it could be like, oh, he's different with you, but I don't really believe that people are different with different people. It's a conscious choice to be different. They decide, I want to be different. It's not a person comes along and suddenly you've been what I've been waiting for to act like a good person.
I think he's a honeymoon period guy. You know what I mean? I think he breezes out after 3 months. Like it's getting stale now. I got the goods. I've spent all the money. I'm out. And I'm just like, Lord, please, Woody, prove us wrong, man. Like, go beyond the honeymoon. You can go beyond the honeymoon period, and you could still call her sweets, and you could still cook for her, and you can still take her to the spa to do her nails. You can still fuss about her hair, but do not buy any more blasted diamond earrings because the food needs to be packed up in the freezer now. You get me? Because COVID is here, and you need enough toilet roll. You get me? You need the lights to stay on.
Yeah,
it's true.
Leave the
and she's not going to move into your grandmother's house. She's too grown.
That's all true as well.
Grown,
I think that's what made me worried, is how comfortable he felt showing her around the grandmother's house.
Maybe grandma's about to pass. That's why he's ready to take over. You don't know. You know what I'm saying that, but you don't realize. But my man's thinking she's about to go, so I ain't about to pay enough. He has to be paying. Listen, because if he can spend £1,000 on clothes, he probably ain't paying rent. He's probably thinking
he's not paying rent. He's not paying rent.
House unpaid off. Like
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think he's in it for the long haul.
Why not? He's thinking about how to save money. You guys not thinking about how he's thinking. He's thinking about how he save money.
I think Woody is that guy, babe. Things are tough. We can always move in my grandmother. She's fine to have us, babe. And I'm like, no, we need to. I'll cut that right down with any man. I'm like, nope. When we get married, we're saying. Do you know what? I heard Jamie Foxx has his mum and his dad who are no longer together living in the house with him. He's like, it's a big house. He went, they live in separate areas.
Yeah, we'll sit off the walls.
It's tough. It's tough.
But from the size of the kitchen, she don't live in no big house.
That's true.
Big house. So
not big enough.
And his bedroom is just off it. So I thought about the smell of the clothes and
cooking.
They must smell like grits, boy.
Biscuits.
And collard greens, boy. You must have to spray up them garments before they come out.
Man,
he's not ready. So I really pray that he can go beyond himself. Yeah. I really do.
I do agree with that, and I think when I heard the budget and I heard how much he spent on, I guess I think that as concern for me is that if he's able to spend that amount of money on clothes, how come at that point, because he's now almost 30, he wasn't thinking about putting that money down like for property, like Brett. You know how Brett is. Touched by his property. How come he wasn't? How come he wasn't thinking on that level? You know what I mean? Maybe not even a house, maybe investments, something. Because all that money on the outer tells me that this is obviously a very big thing for you. You need to look the part. This does something for you. Yeah, that's why you spent so much money into it. You know, and maybe that also could be something that could happen in the future. I don't know if that could be an issue for you. That you may need that validation. And once we take that part away from you and the budget is reduced considerably, because £1,000 a month is damn not crazy, for your budget anyway, would that affect him also in a relationship? Because the guy's got hats, clothes. I thought Miles trainers. He's got clothes and hats for days.
Yeah.
This is this. He can't go to the barbers without looking fresh. So it is. I wonder if that potentially will have an issue as well. If the budget is reduced, will that be a pressure on his neck? Because that could be a sense of control.
Bro, of course it will be. Remember, he stood there saying how his dad was incarcerated for many years when he was young. So I don't think he's had anybody to show him the way of setting up a foundation for his future. I also think that he is validated through his image. And to take that away is maybe taking away the very essence of the man until he really finds who he really is. Do you know what I mean? But I think right now, how he looks is who he is. And for him to hear that, sorry, it can't run like that anymore, that might have to get sliced down to $100 or less. I think it's going to be a struggle.
That's a big habit change.
Yeah, I think change and also compromise, like having demands on you, because it's one thing to change because you're saving for a house and you realize that, oh, my £1,000 budget needs to go down. It's another thing because somebody else is saying, I'm not comfortable, so this can't happen. We need to find another way. When you have like someone else to answer to in marriage now,
it's painful.
Like it can be painful because it's kind of like I'm used to being the boss of me and my money and my time, and now someone else is going to, I think for Woody, interfere with my priorities, My priority is to look a certain way, and nothing, he has come against nothing in life which has made him have to alter that. So living with his grandmother means that he can buy whatever he wants on food. I mean, on clothes. Living with his grandmother, I'm assuming she doesn't, maybe puts a lot towards a food shop. So he doesn't actually understand how much money you need for a food shop a month. It ain't no £1,000. Like he obviously has no concept of money outside of the personal. So he works to buy the things that he wants. And he's talking about children and big house and this and that. And maybe we're going to find out that he's like Brett and he has thousands of equity saved up somewhere, but he just spends way too lavish for his means, and it's not going to help to keep a marriage together at all. Like I heard, like marriage is like one of the #1 things that married couples fight about. So
it's finance, it's a big issue. That's a tough one. That one is, it's not an easy subject to talk about. Money is a very touchy subject for a lot of people.
I think as well, because what Juanita said is that where we don't talk about money, I think, as she was saying, as Black people, but I think also even as Black people, as first or second generation in the United Kingdom, Brits don't talk about money. I was talking about this on the show that I'm on, Ethnically Speaking, about this idea of like in Britain, it's distasteful to discuss money.
Yes.
So I can't come on here
the diaspora experience.
Exactly. I can't be on here and be talking about money and be like, so Juanita and Kojo, tell me how much you earn, because I want to. People just be like, oh, I don't know you like that. I know we're chatting, but I don't know you like that. And there's probably very few people that you let into your financial circumstances. So when you're then married to someone, it becomes very personal to now start talking about how much you have, but then have someone start to look over how you spend it and tell you, is that really what you should be doing with your money? Or our money now? It's a very difficult thing to get. Like, I can't even tell you the truth of this story. Like today, me and my husband had the thing today, talking about money, talking about saving. And I was just be like, oh, I had to admit, like, babe, I bought a little something, and I bought a little something, and I bought a little something, and like literally, and he was just like, okay, how much did it all come to? And I was like, it came to such and such, because I took it from our money. And he was just like, okay. And I was just like, I'm just telling you because I know that these things are going to wear away trust.
It's true.
You look at the balance and you're like, what happened? And I'm just like, oh, I bought some stuff. And I'm like, it's better for me to come to you and just say it. And he was just like, no problem. We need to talk about it, but make sure he's like, thank you for telling me. Just make sure we talk about it. Like, we know the money's there, but it's about trusting each other to tell one another about it. And I've never had to do that in my life with any man. Ever. I've never had to explain how I spend it and why I spend it and how frequently I spend it. It's never been an issue. But in marriage, I have to realize that, no, I am answerable to somebody else when it's our money.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
I hear that. I like that. I appreciate that. So moving to, obviously, I guess, Ben and Amelia. Do you know what? It's funny because obviously I don't spend much time watching them. I just think they're great. I think they're great. You know what I'm saying? I think they're great. I think the only problem is that she's gonna move away, and he's gonna definitely move. He ain't got a choice. But with Bennett and Amelia, what I have seen though is obviously I know that she had to move away because obviously her Bettina, for her work and stuff. And I know he was considering moving, etc. But I mean, they just seem to be happily bliss. I mean, I love the fact that they do not care. They are unapologetically themselves. Their friends are unique. I mean, you can't get two people that are the same in their friendship group. I mean, from A to B, it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just different. So in regards to Amelia and Ben, I mean, how do you guys feel about their relationship? I know, Juanita, you were saying something earlier on as we were talking about the kind of stage they're at in terms of the relationship. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an official stage in the relationship.
I understand.
So there's a more technical name and place and for it. But I feel like even when Amelia's talking, I don't know if you notice when she's in the talking heads, the eyes are quite steamy. It's like in an alpha state, a state where you're just open to hypnotism. You're open to anything.
Jeez.
You're open to whatever comes at you. So I feel that's the state they're in at the moment, which is, and as I said, I don't know what it's officially called, but I like that feeling. I remember that feeling of when it's just like, oh man, you could just do no wrong. I mean, even when my lady washed the cup and the outside of the cup was still dirty. I don't know how you do that, but he was still kind of really gentle about it, and he didn't stay with it. Do you know what I mean? It's a stage of just openness and vulnerability. It's a stage that I think we often wish we could drag out, but we don't. As we get to know each other, we just go into a new stage. Yeah. So some people, maybe somebody like Woody, would drop off just as it's about to go into this new stage of trust and comfortability. I can unput my bra and wear my headscarf in front of you. I can burp, I can fart. Woody may jump out just before that next stage, where it's like, actually, this beginning stage doesn't last too long. But I would say to them both, drag it out as long as you can. We do still have elements of that stage in our marriage. It goes in and out, but it doesn't stay as constant because we have our eyes focused on other stuff, like bills, like children, like careers, like God, like ministry, like getting to work on time, whatever. The focus becomes different. So I feel like whilst they're in that little bubble in Gotham Apartments, bills are paid, the residency conversation is not at the forefront, then this alpha state means that they just can be open to everything.
Anything. Yeah.
And because they have that kind of hippie-like personality, I feel that they will be able to even put an extension on it. See what I mean? Because it's just like, kind of get the guitar out, it's free love. You know, they have exactly the same apartment as everybody else, but theirs doesn't look the same. It's like flung like a multicolored rug on the chair. It's like,
it's true.
All they need is a big zoot, and they will just drag out and they will just drag out the whole thing. So I'm thinking, drag it out as much as you can. I love that he said to her, I want to tell her that I love her.
Yes, yeah. I saw that part. Yeah.
And she felt comfortable enough to say, and I love you too. It didn't feel
forced.
It was like, yeah, so do I. And that gave me butterflies. It gave me good memories. And then it gave me an understanding that you move into new stages, but I still get pockets of that. When that front door opens, my belly still does that, like, oh, he's home. When certain touches I receive, that still comes back. So it doesn't go. It just morphs into something else. Yeah.
I love that. How, in the case of Amelia and Bennett, what I love about them is the fact that, like, again, I'm gonna say it, they are just them. How do you? What can we take from that in terms of our own relationships? Because I feel like I was talking to the missus about this the other day. I was like, listen, me, I'm just unapologetically me. I'm just sorry. I'm going to sing. I'm going to dance. You want to see me extroverted because I'm extroverted. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't change me and I can't be anything else. You know what I'm saying? So it's either you get in the program or you leave it alone. Do you know what I mean? But how, as we're talking about their relationship, how can we, or what good points can we take from that to incorporate into our own relationships? Because I love that fact that they're just them. You know what I mean? What can we take from their relationships to kind of, like, I guess, to incorporate into our own relationships? Or what would you take from their relationship and incorporate into your relationship?
I think one of the things I would take is that there is somebody who is going to be okay with who you are. Because I think definitely when you're younger, like, I'm not saying I'm old, I'm in my 30s, but I think when you're just starting to date and actually having a partner of consequence, probably in your 20s, someone that you would actually look back, like those things when you're 15 or whatever, you're probably not going to think about that as something real unless it went on for like years and years and years. But like, it was always kind of like, to a certain extent, being who you thought that they wanted you to be, or being what society said was the guy or the girl, or the way they should look, or the way they should act. And maybe you're not going to tell them that you're into comic books and that you love anime, or do you know what I mean? Or that actually, I love a little nature documentary. That's my little thing that really gets me worked up in the evenings, that I really love. Like those things that really speak to your interest. I think as you're older and you become more comfortable with knowing and accepting the different parts of yourself, then you're much more willing to kind of let somebody into those spaces. So I think for me is that there is going to be someone, God willing, who is going to accept the things about you that society tells us aren't generic. You know what I mean? Like I have a friend who said to me, oh, I would never date a guy who doesn't like sport because every guy I've ever known likes sport. And I feel like men like sport. And if he didn't, it would mean something. Exactly. But there might be a guy who is like, I have absolutely no interest in that. And you have to kind of be like, well, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. It just means that he's just different than what you might have expected. So I think with them two, they're not doing a lot of the game playing that the others are doing. And I think a lot of...
They're naked.
Yeah, and I think if I can say this, I think a lot of black men play up to masculinity and what they are told masculinity looks like.
We do.
And I feel like they're much more free in being, I like this and I'm going to cry about something and it's been a month, but I'm going to tell you that I love you. And I think a lot of black men who at least I've known or dated wouldn't have been, because their idea of masculinity doesn't match up to being vulnerable. So I think
shaped by popular culture, like by movies. We saw the black movies, The Wood, do you know what I mean? Love and Basketball. And so it was modeled on that, where Kurt missed all of that. And I always say the only kind of hip hop music he had was Busta Rhymes.
It's pretty heavy still.
Light It Up, the Knight Rider one. And other than that, it was like gospel or classical music. So he kind of missed all that. So he didn't come with
my husband too. Exactly. My husband too. Like he didn't grow up. I grew up in London. My husband grew up in the north. So all that London culture, black boy culture, he wasn't a part of it. His family was very conservative Christian. So when I'm out at the cinema and the club and he didn't do any of that. So like his idea of masculinity and what I was used to as masculinity were two different. And that was again one of the struggles that I had dating, because I'm just like, but I'm used to the guy who like knows probably every lyric of like of B.I.G. and he knows California Love inside out, and he was dancing
verses like this.
Exactly. He knows power word for word. Like he was in the club when BMX and everyone was going crazy. Like he ain't got none of that background. And it was just like, oh, this is a guy who plays the clarinet and he plays piano. And and I'm just like, is this masculine? But it is. It's just not the masculinity that we hold up in black culture a lot of the time.
I think you're right. I think there is, even with our experience as black people, when we walk in the room, we walk in with two people. Do you know what I mean? We walk in with your work self or your acceptable white self and your black self.
Code switching.
Where they just walk in. So I feel like there's no barriers. It's like we're not on the camera representing the whole black race, where Woody and Amani may feel that pressure and Karen and Miles. We're just being ourselves. Where I know if you put a camera on me for reality TV, I'm saying I got to be careful in case auntie thinks this, mummy thinks this, and the black race is going to think this. I can't let them down. Like,
and my church is going to think this.
My church is going to think this. She ain't done her edges. My goodness, what we going to think about her? And it's like, actually, they don't have all those hang-ups. So she can sit there in a bird suit. With the harmonica ting around her neck and a guitar and just be chilled. Because she's been 100% authentic herself without all the hang-ups that we have had to have because of systemic racism and other issues.
Yes.
And that's actually a really key point, I think, in dealing with relationships, and the fact that obviously that plays a huge part in terms of how authentic we can be. Because let's say you spend 8 hours at work, you've had to be 8 hours, not you. You know what I mean? You had to curb. You know what I'm saying? You can't even say certain words before they say, hey, you really look black there. You know what I mean?
I'm doing it now, bro. I got business.
You know?
Time now. My husband says,
that's because Winnie is reached high enough up the food chain.
Right.
She's not the intern, you get me? She can drop that, and
it's our time now, bro.
For real. You know what I mean? So I hear what you lot are saying, and that it does play a part in the terms of people being able to be their authentic self when they come into a relationship and being themselves. Because I think that's the keyest point I get from Amelia and Bennett is that they can just be them, and it doesn't matter who else is around them. And I think this is where, if we're talking about relationship image, I think that's where I think Amelia and Bennett really have, I guess, a grasp on, which is that even Woody, who may not understand the whole way they behave, when he's around him, is like, listen, I just love Bennett because the way he is cool. He's just him. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of couples can learn from that in the sense of, listen, just be you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
in the water with his brief on.
That's it. And Woody was like, Woody was like,
but it's you, bro.
It's you in it, but do your thing in it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't.
I ain't gonna do it, but you do your thing. You get me?
But do your thing, you get me?
Yeah. I think one thing I'm concerned about is the sister, man. The sister. She's
her own life.
Deliverance, brethren. I mean, when my lady is so involved, when she was talking about initially that he doesn't want children.
Oh yeah,
and then the body language is a lot. It's like, and then this week you're gonna pull out some Neverment cards for me to tell me my future. It's like, put the cards away and let me tell you, and then bring one stuffed big bird to sit down and ask for bird seeds.
And she ended up with, it was weird. She ended up with like, could you be too happy?
Hey.
I didn't even understand that comment. I was like, what does that mean? Can you be too happy in your relationship?
She want to make sure that, you know, she send it down properly. You get me?
Yeah, she did.
Start consulting her peoples.
You have to even be wary of family. You get me?
Yes.
I think that she has the potential to sabotage this, because he kind of like listened to her like, you may have a point. You know, like, am I going too far? And plus the cards I've told you. And it's like, bun the cards, man. I know who I am. I know who I love.
Yeah.
I love this woman. I've told her I love her. The cards didn't make me do this. Your bird ain't real. You can't eat bird seeds. Go home and take a lie down. And as they have in America, a Tylenol.
Yeah.
Tylenol and go sleep. Because I just think her advice is not good. She worries me. I don't think she's crazy. I just think they're very eccentric family.
Yeah, they are.
Just like the mum. It's the same. She's the same as the mum. So I don't think there's any sort of mental illness, or maybe there is. I don't think there's any evident mental illness. I think she's just mirroring what her mum does. But I feel that she needs to take a back seat, because I think she has the potential to sway him. And that makes me nervous.
I agree with
how much, I guess last question to end it is, how much can a family member, friend, auntie, uncle be involved in your marriage then, if we're talking about Bennett then in this sense? How much should we allow them in?
You shouldn't allow them in. I remember Kurt we made a very quick decision. Well, Kurt asked me to marry him after 4 months of dating.
Wow, love it.
And my mum, who I love, said, "You don't know the man, he's going to kill you." That was her experience. If I had gone with her advice, you know, I wouldn't be in this beautiful relationship now. But I understood what she was saying. And so what I learned from that day, and that was before we got married, was to filter and to understand, what are you really saying? And what she was really saying is, I'm scared for you, because the black men that I have known have not been that great. Yeah. So why don't you take your time and get to know him? But I was like, no, I'm okay with this going this far. So I'm all right with it. So maybe it's not about not listening to relatives, because sometimes not listening is the problem. Yeah. It gets us in mad relationships in the first place, because they can see what you can't see. But maybe to filter what's being said. To be honest, nowadays, since year one, I don't hear anything. I don't get any advice or anything like that. It's kind of like, she's all right now. Just let her sail. So we just get on with it. But I think filter, because sometimes family do mean have the best intentions for you. Yeah. It's just about filtering and having a boundary to say, no, you can't pass here. That's for me and us. That's for us to work out.
I think for me, like, I definitely don't talk about everything in my marriage with, well, anybody. But anyone who I do talk about things, like if there's an issue that I'm just kind of like, it's kind of like we keep hitting something and I need to have an outside voice on this. I think the only person is probably I trust is like my sister and my mum.
Yeah.
And that's because I know that they are rooting for my marriage.
Yes.
Okay, this is important. Yeah.
Even when I feel, and I've never wanted out, because for me, I've always been, when I said the vows, I mean that whatever happens, but times when you just feel like I can't seem to get over this thing, like I don't know what it is. I speak to people who I know are rooting for the marriage's success.
Yeah.
And they're rooting for him. And sometimes I'm like, I feel like they love you more than they love me, babe. Like the levels which they love you at is a bit insane, but okay. So then that way, anything that they say to me is always about restoration. Always. It's always about, okay, take an hour, let's pray, but you know you need to go back and have the conversation. You know, everything's going to be okay. And they're people who have been married longer than me as well. So I know that they're talking from like, it feels difficult now. It feels like you can't get past this thing, but you're going to, and it's going to make you stronger. So that's the only people I entrust difficult things to. Other than that, I'm just kind of like, nah, because sometimes people want to have comments about things and they don't know either of you. Whereas my mum and my sister, they know both of us. So they're talking from a place of, I can see maybe something you're talking about, but I want this to work. So whatever I say is going to be about you coming together and staying together. So for 100%. Me, those are the people that you talked about, because marriage isn't something that you do in a silo as much as, because I think it's very confusing when people say, don't talk to anyone about your marriage. Keep it completely quiet, because I know a friend and she said to me, I talk to my friends about marriage because no one in my family is married. No one has stayed married in my family. So it's my other married friends in this close-knit community are the people I can talk to when I'm having a marriage issue, because I know that they're rooting for marriage in general and they want us to succeed. So sometimes you need to hear an outside voice, because married people will sometimes tell you what they're doing isn't crazy. Like my husband, true story. Oh gosh, when we first got married, we had an argument, and now you're arguing and you can't be like, I'm gonna just go to my flat and I'm gonna talk to you in like an hour or 2 hours, or let me talk to you tomorrow. He was just like, he was done with the argument. He went downstairs. I went after him. He went in the kitchen. I went after him. He went up here. I went up, and he was just like, what are you doing? I'm like, what? I'm not finished. Argument's not done. So I'm chasing him around. Now it's comical. I'm walking around him after the house and he's shutting doors like the conversation is finished. I'm like, I'll stand outside the door. I haven't finished. So I continue. So for him, who is usually doesn't really get that angry, he was just like, this woman is crazy. We went around talking to some of our married friends a couple months afterwards, and they were just like, now they had been in marriage deep for like 14, 15 years. And they were like, oh yeah, when we got married, she used to chase me around the house when we was arguing, just walk after me. And he was like, you too? And they were just like, yeah. And he was just like, so it wasn't just her. And it wasn't the man. He was kind of like, and they were just like, yeah, she used to do it. And she was just like, I hadn't finished saying what I was saying. I was like, that's exactly how I felt. So it's good to be in community with married people, because they give you sometimes a balance and a lens on what is normal. Because you can say something in marriage like, nah, that's normal. And you can be like, he does such and such. And you're like, sis, that's not okay. Exactly. Him chucking plates when he gets angry. That's not normal. That's not normal. That's not allowed.
It's a sounding block. It's a sounding block. I think this is the reason why we did This Is Marriage UK, is because we wanted to have real and transparent conversations and to let people know they weren't alone. Because we equally didn't have many married people in our families or successful marriages around us in our church. And so we were learning through conversations, and people were learning from us through conversations. And the fact that we had a little bit of longevity, people kind of wanted to glean from us, but we were like, no, we're learning from you. So sometimes people who come on our live shows or who are listening to the commentary will say, well, the new word, or maybe it's not a new word, but a word that's used a lot. Well, he's toxic. I'm not bringing that toxic man, into my relationship. And we're just like, everybody's toxic, mate, on the planet. So we just want to tell you the the real situation. Like, so people are like, so how did you resolve that? Did you not let the sun go down in your anger?
Oh.
No, I actually do better in the morning. So I actually had to go to sleep, and my head was up there, his head was down there, and then the next morning it was like, I'm so sorry, let's just work through this. So we tried to give it as real and as authentic as possible, also bearing in mind that we're talking to the internet. So although the internet believes they have all of us, they don't have all of us. They have lessons, they have object lessons, they have learning lessons to say, you can do this, you can stay the course. And so I think that wise counsel from others outside of your own selves is important. But as I said, wise counsel. You can't just take it from anybody. Because your ting, they will mash up your things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I read that. Okay. What would be your kind of final thoughts then? I know we kind of round it up a little bit. What would be your final thoughts you want to add, or predictions you want to add? You know, any little thing you want to add to the conversation. Doesn't have to be married at first sight. Can be married in general. Over you, Phil.
Mine would be for marriage at first sight, and it is like COVID is gonna separate the real ones from the ones who were on here for a good time. That it's gonna separate, and we are gonna see what people are actually like now, which is what they need to see in marriage. This is what this is the bit. If they can get over COVID,
and they can
work for anything.
Yeah, I think they thought that this was the limelight, but when Biggie said, "Now I'm in the limelight because I rhyme tight," this is gonna be tight. This is the separation of the wheat and tears, as Sophie said, and this is real life. So if I'm not even wrapping up this week, I'm just so waiting and saying, Lord, spare my life till Thursday so I can watch Married at First Sight in quarantine link. I want to see this, Jesus, please. So that is something what I'm looking forward to. In terms of predictions, I think we've already known that Brett is left and going back home to sort out his yard to make sure
check out his equity, bro. He's
going
to remortgage quick.
You're making sure
to the bank.
You know how hard I worked to get here.
Funds, his retirement funds, and I feel that Olivia is going to feel further disappointed. I feel that that we see somebody sliding toward these DMs, and Amani's just going to lose it. Like I knew it. I think I saw a clip with Karen crying. And Miles said he was upset, but I don't know if Karen's crying to say he got angry at me. So I really don't know. But for marriage, I would say that marriage is a good thing. It's an honorable thing. It is a gift given by God. It is a learning curve, the biggest that you would ever be on. It is a personal development course. It is something which brings out the worst and the best in you. It is something where you can authentically be yourself. It's something where you can grow and build legacy in. So it's a good thing, man. When the Bible says he who finds a wife finds a good thing, I just pray I'm still that good thing for another 40 years plus to come.
Amen.
Yeah.
And I'd probably just add on to that as well quickly. So that marriage is a relationship of seasons. And I think that in society, we promote the season of summer for marriage. You know, that's the one that we promote, and that's the one we tell people is a successful marriage. Yeah. So if it's going through winter or autumn, things are a bit rocky, then it's is it a sign that you should even be married? Because if it's not summer, then what does it mean? But you're constantly coming in and out of seasons, and you have to stay the course. And like, if you stay the course in any autumn or winter, it is coming back round. It is coming back round. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Before you go, actually, there's two questions, and I think they're really, really good. I'm so sorry. There's two questions. So, very first question is, I can put it up. I just realized. Question was, for all the obstacles and challenges, do you feel like it is worth it? What things aside from infidelity and abuse would be deal breakers, I guess?
I would say we've had many obstacles and challenges, and all of them have been worth it. And I say that with gritted teeth because I'm still working through it. I'm trying to do the Romans 8:28, all things work together for good. Sometimes that sits well with me, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that's too hard, Lord. Does that really going to work out for the good? Do you know what I mean? But I would say whatever, a good doesn't mean I opened the front door and there was a car outside. But a good does mean that my character has been changed and refined.
Wow.
I can feel the strength of the Lord. I can feel that I didn't walk that. We were carried that. Do you know what I mean? So I can look back and say, I have gained strength. I have gained more trust and deeper intimacy with my husband through the challenges and obstacles. If we didn't have these, I wouldn't be as close to him as I am now. I definitely wouldn't be as close to God as I am now, because I need him in these difficult times. So yeah, then I would say then it's worth it, because if you took these away, I don't know who would be. Quite fickle, I think. I would take out one of these things. Infidelity, I think, can always be worked through. I think it can. I think if you look at stuff like situations like unmet needs, if you look at stuff like intentions, if you look at stuff like vulnerability, I think infidelity can be worked through. But abuse is a deal breaker, and that is one that I couldn't stay with. So that's the only deal breaker for me, is abuse, and that deal hasn't been broken, so I'm still here. I'm good.
And I was going to say, I very much mirror what Juanita said about infidelity, because I do, and I feel, honestly, I feel a bit vulnerable saying it.
That was strong.
Because of the way our society is set up at the moment.
That's true.
It's kind of like, if a woman dares to say she would take a man back after infidelity,
it's a madness.
It's like you don't value yourself, you don't this, you don't that. And I'm just kind of like, but I believe that when I took vows, I took it for that as well, like for better or for worse. Like I took it for that. And for me, if it was repeated infidelity happening repeatedly with different people throughout the marriage, that's a deal breaker to me, because you don't respect me. And it's deeper than the fact that there was a lack of attention. We haven't been spending time together. I've had to work overseas for 6 months. It's like, it's not, there's something else going on there. But I think for infidelity, I've always been like, if my husband cheated on me, I'm just kind of like, if we both wanted to work on it, then I'm going to work on it. And I'm not just going to throw it in the towel and say, well, because you cheated, I'm gone. I feel like I would owe it to the marriage to try and make it work. In terms of obstacles and challenges, it definitely is worth it, because the obstacle and challenges don't outweigh everything else that comes with the marriage. If they do, then that's when it becomes difficult. But the tough things that we've gone through have never outweighed all of the good times. This has been one of the most difficult years for me and my husband. His father died at the beginning of the year. Like, my job, I'm up for redundancy. I'm thinking, what's going to happen? All this stuff. But I have never felt alone once. I have never felt like there isn't somebody in it with me. And those are the times you realize this is what marriage is about. It's about you're together through anything. So it is always worth it, but make sure it's only worth it with the right person. And I don't mean the one, because I don't believe in the one. I believe that you can make it work with various people, but make sure you pick someone who is worth being married to, because you can't marry any old piece of trash and then say any obstacle or challenge that comes with riding. No, you married someone who wasn't even going to be worth the time that you're going to have to put into it. So I think the only deal breaker for me, abuse, number one, and if they no longer want to try. Because it always takes two people to make a marriage work. One person, no matter how much I want my marriage to work, if my husband's given up mentally, it's not going to work. So me, it wouldn't even be saying I would leave. I'd be like, there is no other option, because it's not a marriage anymore. It's not even a marriage. It's not a marriage. If we're not both working, it's not a marriage. Because you have people, you have people, and I'm sure you know them in our churches. One is living in the Caribbean, one is living in the UK, and they're like, we're still married because we have the piece of paper. I'm like, no, that marriage is broken. The paper don't mean nothing. It's about two people working together. That's what a marriage is. So from the time that he says he doesn't want to work out anymore, the marriage is already broken.
Okay, I respect that. Last question. When resolving conflict, I need time apart sometimes to think before I address the issue, but my other half wants to address the issue there and then, which annoys me. How can I overcome this? I think you two kind of sweat this, but go again, please, and give some wisdom for that.
Yeah, I'm one. Let's deal with it now. I'm not going to bed with this. But Curtis is let me think on this. Let me deal with it in the morning. And I couldn't handle that in the first place when that happened and conflict started in our marriage. I couldn't handle it. I felt rejected that he would walk away and say, I'm dealing with this later. I had to express that though, to say, when you walk away and not want to deal with this conflict, it makes me feel like you're leaving me. That's how it makes me feel. But he's saying, if I don't walk away, I'm going to say things that I regret. So you have to give me that space. So we've come to an understanding now that I know that when you're walking away, you're not leaving me because you've clarified that. And I also understand that you have to process this, and to reduce the collateral damage, I understand that you need to walk away. I understand that you are trying to manage your emotions and what comes out your mouth. You're trying to minimize the hurt. So now I will see him walk away, and I understand what that means. I'll give him that space and time, and I just have to find something to chill out with. If I was brewing last night, then I just put the rain sounds on. Do you get me, on YouTube or the Abide app, and just hear the word and go sleep. I have to deal with it in the morning, and trust me, by the morning it's always like, that was stupid, isn't it? We shouldn't have. That was just not worth it. So it's recognizing the other person's need. His need to walk away is very strong. It's stronger than my desire to get it out then and there. And so I put that first. I put that first, and he puts mine first. And then in the end, his comes first, because his actually weighs that better to leave it for a minute, let it settle. So I put him first on that.
Appreciate
it took time though.
It's real.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk to
that. I don't know if you guys can hear me, because I think my reception is going down a bit funny, so just let me know if I'm cutting or anything. But I think, Angela, I had to chuckle when I saw this, because I'm like, 100%. I'm the person that likes to walk away. My husband wants to solve it right now, and he wants to solve it right now and get back to being good, where I need time. And I think that it can be very frustrating, because again, you're becoming aware that you deal with things in different ways, you both feel that the way that you deal with it is the best way. So my husband will swear down, it's the best because we're dealing with it right now. And I'm like, it's best because I've had time to think and process, and now I can come and talk from it. So it's number one, accepting that both are valid. Both are valid ways to deal with it, because you're different. And I think having a conversation, as Juanita said, as in, the reason why I walk away is because of this. And the reason why I can't talk right now is because of such and such. And what has worked for me and my husband is that sometimes, and this has taken time, because before, when we were dating and we were living in different cities, I could be like, I can't talk to you for the rest of the day. I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow. But now we're married. He's like, he had to be like, it doesn't work for you to disappear for 2 days and think about things. He was like, it's not conducive to our relationship.
I love that.
So we've had to work on what is an acceptable time frame for you to really kind of think about it. Like, he was like, you taking 24 hours or 48 hours. And because when I take time, I'll be silent. So he was just like, it can't work to have radio silence, Sophie. So you have to be able to talk about the other things going on in the house. You have to be able to talk about this if we need to, but we need to find a way. So I would say, Angela, finding out something that works for both of you, but just realize that's trial and error. You're going to try things, it's not going to work. And then when things are calmed down, you're like, okay, that didn't really work. Maybe we should try this. And then you'll find something that works for both of you. Maybe not perfectly, but enough for you to come back to the matter at a time that is good for both of you. Because there's going to have to be give and take, unfortunately. Because I could take 3 days to feel like I'm ready to talk. And my husband's like, that's unacceptable. I can give you some time, but not that much.
Would you call that like the rules of engagement? So it's kind of like, in terms of looking at war, these are my rules of engagement. This is how we engage in battle.
Yeah.
There's certain lines that is
I
not
think
crossed.
definitely, and realizing that it's a process, because like I think we learn more and more about each other, because my husband said to me, he just realized something this year about me. We've been together for 4 years in total, 2 years married. He's like, when I go away to take time, I'm not thinking about the argument because I'm so upset about it. I can't even mentally engage. So I'll just go off and do some work, do some reading, do whatever it is that I need to do with life in general. And then once I've calmed down, then I can think about it. But what had happened is that once I'd calmed down, I'd be like, I'm ready to talk about it. And he was like, so what do you think about what was said? And I'm just like, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Like, and he's just like, you've taken 5 hours, Sophie, and I have been ruminating on this thing and how to make it better and how we can solve it. And for him, he was like, he thought that I just didn't care enough.
Yeah.
But he was just like, oh my days, I've realized that when you've gone off upset, you're not thinking about it. I'm just like, no, because what has happened has upset me. So I'm not engaging with you. Once I've calmed down. And he was just like, I thought that you just didn't care enough to think about it. So when you came back, which then made him upset. So he was like, now I know once you've calmed down, it's time for you to process. And that has been a game changer, because I'm like, why are you upset? Because I don't know the answer, because I haven't thought about it. Because he's like, because I have been thinking about it. So that's why I'm saying it's going to be trial and error. And you're still going to have to work out, what does it mean? How do I do this? Until you get to a time where you can deal with conflict in a way that is, he's going to do this, I'm going to do that. It works like this. But that hasn't happened in year 2. And maybe it's happened in year 19 for Juanita, but it takes time.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And I think on that note, guys, I think that's a healthy standpoint to end on. You know, you've given us both some juicy wisdom, given us words of comfort around marriage and relationships. And I think just listening to you two as well, I think it's been very enlightening. And I think I said this with the last live that we did as well, which was that even though we're talking about married at first sight, as we're talking about relationships and talking about marriage, I think this is very good for people to listen to, because I think one of the hardest things is staying in basketball players will call it staying in the pocket, but basketball players, drummers will call it staying in the pocket. Being able to stay in that place, right? It can be very hard, because our natural inclination is, well, if it's not working, change it. You know what I mean? And so when we're talking about marriage, it's not about just if it's not working, change it, because you can't change that person. You've got to stick it out, and you've got to find a resolution that allows both of you to be able to move forward without you quitting the process. So I think just listening to you two and just kind of giving that wisdom and speaking about these issues and talking about how you've resolved it in your marriage as well is so much more enlightening. And also it's good to get a female perspective. I think sometimes, you know, I love Curtis, he knows I love him, but you know, it's good to also get a female perspective and to see the other side of the tracks. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah, we need that. You know what I'm saying? Feminine energy. So again, thank you very much, Juanita and Sophie. Oh, before we do go, please do plug your ventures and also your businesses and also your platforms that you guys work on as well, please.
Yeah, I just like to say, you know, I found your channel, Kodjo, about 2 years ago.
By grace.
And I said, this brother just absolutely cracks me up, but he's got such insight as well. And I've promoted the channel, like one of my cousins, Mira, she just watches it hard, you know what I mean? But you're so relatable and you're so authentic. So that was one of the things that drew me to the channel. So it's just a privilege to be sitting, do you know what I mean? And to be working with you. And keep doing what you're doing. He started a good work in you and you will see it to completion.
Amen.
Getting a lot of knowledge and wisdom out there. And I rate you for it. Do you know what I mean? I can't wait to be calling you Dr. Kodjo. Eh?
I'm leaving it for you and Curtis. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to support y'all.
But yeah, where I'm from, This is Marriage UK. I run that IG page and YouTube channel with my husband. We have real talk conversations with guest speakers talking about issues from mental health, abuse, talking about attachment theories, just kind of real issues that come up in marriage that people don't want to talk about. We like to do that. We like to have those conversations. We like to invite other couples on to share their experiences as well. We particularly did a lot of that during COVID, because we saw the need when COVID first started, because we saw the need to keep families together while the enemy's trying to separate families. We wanted to put some encouragement out there. So check us out. And this is Marriage UK Instagram, and this is Marriage UK YouTube. As Kojo says, like, share, subscribe. And you better have all the minerals that you get, all the minerals that you need from the channel. You get me?
Amen.
So thank you so much again. Thanks, and thanks, Sophie. You've been amazing. Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's great to just speak with you guys as well. It's been a long day, but really
y'all been.
But I really look forward to coming and speaking with you guys. So really, again, and Kojo, just giving us this platform to just kind of talk with you and to talk about the show. And I think, being married makes me want to talk about the joys and more so the realities of it much more. People know exactly what they're getting into and what it takes to keep a marriage together, because I'm still learning that. And on my channels, everything is I am Sophie Hannah. So please go over to my Instagram specifically and follow me on there, because you'll find all the things I'm doing. I'm on a show called Ethnically Speaking on YouTube, but that comes out once a week, talking about pop culture and current affairs with 2 other hosts. I do interviews with ethnic minority women. I do film reviews. So make sure you go over to I am Sophie Hannah, one word, on Instagram to check out everything I'm doing.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Guys, it has been absolute storming. Okay. And I love the fact that we can discuss this raw subject. I'm not married myself, so when I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm just soaking in all the practicalities of marriage. And so I really do appreciate the fact that you're transparent, you're open, you're honest, and also you keep it fresh and real. So for me, that's a blessing that you guys have come onto the platform to discuss those kind of things. Audience, I hope you guys have liked what you guys have seen. I know that you guys will always respond and comment below, so appreciate you guys for dropping in. Next week we're back here again. We're back here on Tuesday, 7 p.m. We'll be here with This Is Marriage again as well. I think Curtis will be back this time. I don't know if he wants to give up the seat, but if you want to take off, you can take off. Obviously, so we're back here with This Is Marriage UK next week, and we'll also have another special guest with us as well. But we'll be back next Wednesday, 7 p.m. to discuss episode 13. And I'm hoping, I'm scared because I'm hoping someone hasn't commented DMs. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for. That it was just his mom or something that messaged him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The gran. I hope it's Granny.
I hope it's a Granny. Granny didn't know what she was doing. You know what I mean?
Granny just said, "I got the grits. I got the grits."
He said the aubergine emoji. Like
the wrong one. The wrong. Yeah.
Don't get it twisted, baby. That's not what it meant.
That's Granny. That's Granny.
Granny said, "You know that bag that I left on the worktop."
Yeah, exactly.
It weren't for you.
Yeah. Not for you. It was not for you.
Oh gosh. So guys, if you want to see more of this stuff, please come back next week Tuesday 7 p.m. and next Wednesday 7 p.m. and we'll be here for you again to discuss Married at First Sight and marriage. Appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded, and as well clicking that bell button for notifications. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
All right.